Hello there. Welcome to A Certain Point of View. I am your host, Michael Hoover. This is a Star Wars podcast, and today we are going to talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi, Chapter 4 or Part 4, whatever. And tonight's going to be a blast, you guys. We have our co-host, Curry Morris, joining us tonight. So glad you could be here, man.
Good to be here, man.
Yeah, and then we also have special guest, Loreseeker, returning again. What's up, man?
What's up, brother? Appreciate you having me on for my certain point of view.
Of course. I always want your certain point of view. And dude, we've had you on a couple of times. This is the first time we've had you on with Curry on here. So this is going to be fun. I think you guys are going to hit it off. Just a prediction. But let's just see over here. Let's put this over here. If you're in the chat, I would love for you to let us know that you're here. And that way we can interact with you as we go tonight. I won't always read every single comment, but if one is really great pertaining to what we're talking about, I will definitely make time to read that. And but hey, listen, this is the first time I've actually had a show with Curry since Obi-Wan started. So
Yes.
I'm going to get Loreseeker's thoughts here in a second, but I want to know really quick, Curry, just general thoughts on the show up to this point, not including this past episode.
Yeah. So first 3 episodes, absolutely in love with where it's going so far. It's not perfect. There's some flaws here and there. You know, I think we can all acknowledge the little things or the nitpicks that we all will have. But the broad strokes of the show, you know, it's really just been right up my alley. This is a show I've been looking forward to for some time. This is a concept that I've wanted since episode 3. Like, what did Obi-Wan do through these times? And the emotion has worked for me. The story has worked for me. The surprises have worked for me. And I just am heavily invested. Revenge of the Sith is my favorite Star Wars movie. And seeing the pretty much a direct sequel to that in the sense of like the themes and the plot threads really being referenced and heavily leaned upon has been super duper exciting. So I'm stoked.
Dude, me and you, it's so great because, you know, we agree on stuff sometimes with Star Wars, but when we disagree, we really disagree, and it can get
passionate.
It can get heated. It's very fun, passionate debate we have quite often, but we're on the exact same page on this show pretty much.
We are.
I'm very much loving it, but you guys all know that. Loreseeker, what do you think about the show so far up through the first 3 episodes?
The first 3 episodes.
Yeah, just not getting to this week's episode just yet.
It's not perfect, but it's good. It's definitely good. And I've watched, if I'm comparing it to say other Star Wars shows, I've watched it more than I've watched Book of Boba. I probably watched each episode twice on Book of Boba. The episode 2 and 3, the ending of episode 2, I watched like 20 times when he finds out about Anakin Skywalker. And then episode 3, I've watched 4 times. And then episode 1, I just think that's a really good opening, episode for the series.
Yeah, man. I love episode 1. That's probably still my favorite, to be honest. It's so good. But I've absolutely loved this show so far. Agreed, it's not perfect. There's honestly, like, I think there's a lot of nitpicking going on out there. There's a lot of like weird complaints going on that I've seen that I really disagree with. I think Deborah Chow overall has done an excellent job with direction. For me, it's more like weird edits. There's more editing issues, and directing is involved with that, so I understand that. But like just camera work wise and all that, I think it's been filmed well. I think some edits have been super wonky, and they leave me like they take me out of it every now and then. Like, wait, what? Okay, got it. Like I always have to think about things like it takes me out of the show. So I do think there's been some issues here and there, but man, I really have loved the show as a whole. I think it's going through. I think it's really developed Obi-Wan's character well in this time, and while at the same time having moving the plot along at a pretty brisk pace, but not too brisk. It feels very healthy. At least it has. We haven't talked about this episode yet. But yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I've loved the show, to be honest. I'm a big fan of it. We'll see how it ends. We'll see how it ends. I don't know if it'll be, to me, The Mandalorian might still be the best Star Wars show, live action show. I think that one is very consistent. In my view, I think that one is just, and it knows what it is, and it just is that. You know what I mean? It's not trying to be anything that it's not, and it's just confident in what it is. And I think what it is fantastic.
Like the Mandalorian has no chains, right?
Yeah.
He can do whatever, they can write whatever they want, as long as not killing Darth Vader, completely breaking the timeline. He can do whatever he wants. Kenobi, it's like, all right, he can't do this, 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 and he can't do this. So they're really constricted on what story they can tell.
Completely agree. Luke, yeah.
Everyone thinks they can make the perfect Kenobi story, but until they put you in the round table and say, what story do you got for us? And you start writing it down, you're like, oh wait, that won't work either. That won't work. So what they've given us so far, I think is, like I said, it's pretty good.
I agree, man. It's hard.
Yeah, and it's so ironic too, because the Legends Kenobi book is like a very character focused. I haven't read it, but I've read a lot of details about it. It's Tatooine focused. It's very character focused. Complaints that it was boring, and they wish they would have done more with it when it came out. And now the people complaining about Kenobi want what the Kenobi novel was. People just can't make up their minds.
Well, because so I read the Kenobi book when it came out. I pre-ordered all the books, and I'm reading it in the first week. And I was like, so you get this book, and it's literally what everyone on Twitter or whatever is saying. Like, I want to watch Kenobi just sit in the sand and do the wall and protect Luke from 5 miles away. And that's almost what this book was. And it's a boring book. It really is. I don't want to.
That's what I heard.
I probably read that in. I'm 30 years old now. I was in school for sure. So it was a while ago. I probably do need to give it a reread just because my kid brain probably just wanted action. I bet you I would enjoy it more as an adult.
Yeah.
But trust me, you don't want that on there. He finds out that Anakin or Vader's alive, literally drinking Jawa juice at the cantina, and he's watching the Holo News. Like the Holo News comes on, and he's like, Vader's alive. Like, is that really how you wanted him to find out in the show? Like, just drinking by himself at the bar?
They put that excerpt in the Dark Lord of the Sith book or Rise of the Dark Lord book or whatever, the third one right after Revenge of the Sith about Darth Vader. They put that as the last moment. And I was like, at the time, I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, this is how Kenobi finds out he's Vader. But it's so much better in the show. Like, it feels so much more personal. And not he just randomly found out.
That scene is the one I'm talking about that I watched 20 times. Like the little 10-second rewind on Disney, I just kept hitting it.
Yeah, dude, it's so good.
McGregor's acting is amazing. When he's sitting there and he's like, and he says Anakin out loud, and Leia's just so close. Like she's the fly on the wall watching history, and she doesn't even know it. It's crazy.
I love that, dude. Oh my gosh, yeah, that scene is absolutely amazing. So emotional. You're right. Ewan McGregor's performance in that part is, I feel the fear and the anxiety and the just all of the guilt and all the shame just on him in that moment, and just wait, he's alive. I can't even imagine what he's got to be feeling, and it's absolutely brilliant. Well, hey, why don't we get in? Just so you guys know, this is not going to be our typical 2-hour discussion tonight. We do have a time cutoff. We will be finished around 8:45. And so we got to get into this discussion. So let me just say, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, please do. That would really help us out, and leave us a rating and review. Go follow us on all of our social medias. That is down in the description below in the audio podcast when it is released. And thank you for being here in the chat. I know there's at least a few of you in there, so welcome. And again, let us know that you're here, and we will be reading your comments as we go, as long as they are they're good and pertaining to what we're talking about. So let's dive in, guys. Let's start with Loreseeker. I want to hear general thoughts, and we'll go into details, but general thoughts about this episode and what you thought about it. And this is part 4.
First watch, I thought that it was short but to the point. So I was okay with it being not as long as 45 minutes is what we were used to. And I know there's a lot of complaints, but we just want, there's nothing wrong with wanting so much more Kenobi, right? So
Yeah.
I was okay with it, but I'm tired of the rescue act. Like, I don't want to see the next 3 episodes of them trying to save Leia. I'm glad they just got it over with, right? They gave us a 30-minute episode to the point, save Leia, and now we can get on to episode 5 and 6, which I'm assuming is going to be at Jabim, and we're going to get some real Kenobi, General Kenobi type story. So I was excited, and the Easter eggs in this one, if you compare it to almost any other show we've gotten per episode, it was filled with A New Hope and Fallen Order Easter eggs. They're everywhere. Every scene has an Easter egg. It's crazy, and I love it.
That's great, man. How about you, Curry?
Yeah. So I share a lot of the thoughts that Loreseeker does in terms of like the excitement over the Easter eggs, and glad that they got that story out of the way. But I'm also frustrated with this episode a little bit. I was mildly disappointed, I should say. This was the episode where our first kind of those nitpicks. It's actually amazing, Michael. I completely agree with my biggest nitpick is the editing of the show. And something about this one just really stood out as kind of awkward in places, seemingly rushed together and just choppy. And I have said to a couple people that it almost feels like this is a wildly short episode. It's 32 minutes. I almost feel like it either should have been shorter and part of another episode, or make that journey more worth it and give us more story within what happens. A lot like is hinted at or shown, but they don't really do anything with it. And I know that will come later, but for this to be only a 6-episode show, for them to have a detour for another rescue mission where not really much happens in way of advancing the plot other than rescuing Leia, I was a little bummed. And I think some of the execution was a little wonky. Like when Tala smacks the stormtrooper's helmet, is like, ah, and falls back. Like there's just some awkwardly blocked and directed executed scenes there that kind of bogged it down a little bit. But that being said, there's still a lot of good to make up for it.
Would you think that she was trying to get Kenobi, like she wanted it to end here, but because she couldn't get to Kenobi, she allowed him to leave, because she could easily put the tracker on the pilot ship back at the mining planet, right, and then allowed Leia to get on that ship and then followed her there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know if it was a kind of like desperate thing so Vader wouldn't kill her, and like she kind of thought of it in the moment, or it was just a backup plan. I'm not really sure.
That was my only thing, because it was like, yeah, she got the same goal with a lot more work, right? Yeah. Because she's a smart inquisitor. She made it this far. Why not just put the tracking droid or the tracker on the pilot ship, allow Leia to leave, go to Jabim, and then send the fleet there and take care of business.
Yeah.
So
I think another thing too, Michael, is it feels really easy. And I didn't really think of this criticism until I talked with some others last night. You know who those guys are, Michael. But
no idea.
They get into the base like super easy. Like the whole thing feels like a Screen Rant pitch meeting. Like it was super easy, barely an inconvenience.
That was my big. So my thing was I was so surprised by how quick the episode moved to the fortress. Like they had like a 5-minute discussion and no one raised their hand like, hey, can we just go over the details of this master plan? Because we're rushing this. And Kenobi's like, let's do this. We're going now. They get there. And the only difference between Kenobi's entrance and Kestis' entrance is that Tala needed to open the door for him instead. That's the only new security. They just locked the door instead of kept it unlocked.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's all it takes.
And I think the biggest takeaway, and Michael, then I'll shut up and let you talk, I promise. The biggest takeaway is that they went that route and they made it super easy and quick. And when it could have been a full episode, it could have been the Mission Impossible episode of Kenobi, right? Like they could have really like gone all in with the heist. And instead of doing that, they told a quick story that not completely, but very quickly overlooks the events of the previous episode. Like I wanted to see Kenobi reeling from what just happened and really deal with the trauma. And I know that's coming. I know we will get that. It just seemed a little odd to put that on the back burner so quickly and rush into another rescue mission when we have already had one. I know that sounds super critical. I still enjoyed the episode, but this was the only one where I was just like, I'm struggling with it a little bit.
Not at all, dude. It did not sound super critical because I felt the same thing. And I watched it 3 times. Well, I would say I watched it 2.5 times because the first time I watched it was at 2 a.m. Central Time. And I fell asleep for a good solid. I didn't know how long I fell asleep for until my second watch. I fell asleep for a good 15-minute chunk in the middle. And so my first watch was not a good one. So the second time was much better for sure. But I agree, man. It was like, so I generally have a lot of the same thoughts. I do think this episode has more character stuff than is given credit for, but it is unnecessarily rushed. This episode has a lot going on, and I don't understand the need to cut it down to 32 minutes when there are spots that are very noticeably how quickly. First of all, I'll talk about the very beginning in a second, because I totally agree with you. I wanted them to sit in that. I wanted them to sit in Obi-Wan. I think this is just me with this show. I wanted Obi-Wan to just wrestle with his trauma, for the entire episode. I wanted this to be that episode. Yep. I'm good if it's another one. It's going to happen. It's got to happen at some point. But I did, I had expectations, and, maybe that's my fault, but it did make sense for it to, he was in the back of the tank. He was having these flashes with Vader. Really cool. I really like that symbolism. I really like what's going on there, but it just was it was so quick. And he's like, where's Leia? And then the very next thing was they're walking out to this new character. What's his name again?
Roken.
Roken. Yeah. Roken. They go out and just meet this new character, Roken. And it was just like, wait, we're just going now. We're just boom out of here. And I just felt like that was really rushed. And we didn't even see a conversation between Obi-Wan and Tala about who's I don't know, why are they going to find specifically Roken? I don't know this character at all. They didn't really introduce him very well. I still don't know anything about him.
His scene, I don't know if they shot that on the volume or if they green screened him in, because it kind of looked like it looked bad.
I didn't notice that.
Bad. If you go back and watch, there's a weird outlining around him. And it looks like they CGI'd him in, or because it doesn't look like a volume shot. It looks like the background maybe, and then they inserted him in. It was just super odd looking, and it really took me out of the moment. And I know that's crazy nitpicky.
No, I mean,
I
didn't notice it.
But because we are only getting 6 episodes and we weren't greenlit for a season 2 at the time of the making of the show, I don't think we're going to get Kenobi traumatized by episode 3. And here's why. Because he comes out of the back to tank, and I thought when he comes out of the back to tank, he's gonna be like, man, I just took a loss. Let me go in the corner and cry about it for a little bit, which is what we wanted to see. But he pops out and he's like, Leia. So when he walks around the corner, he just has those Clone War robes on, and he's walking like Kenobi. And what's his name again? The new character?
Roken.
I don't know I don't know why I didn't catch this till the second one.
Called him General.
He calls him General. And instead of saying, don't call me General, don't call me Obi-Wan, I'm Ben Kenobi, he just takes it. And he's like, this is the mission, and this is what we're going to do. So I think Kenobi's back. I think it was one of those. It wasn't a loss where he's going to go back to the gym and dwell on it. He's going back to the gym, and he's like, when's my next match? That's what I think now. I think they're going to skip that because, like I said, at the time of the filming of this, we didn't know there was going to be a season 2.
That still hasn't been actually confirmed. That's not confirmed.
It's Kenobi.
It's not confirmed. I actually still, I've seen reports too, but they're not from anywhere that's
Grogu,
really.
Do you got a Grogu telling you? My
No.
Grogu, it's confirmed. Yeah.
I got Obi-Wan telling me.
I have Kenobi.
No,
But
we'll see.
6 episodes. Oh, another one can know. I don't have any.
You win.
I'm
out. But no, dude. Okay, so yeah, here's the thing. I don't know about that. I think honestly that hasn't been confirmed by anyone really legitimate yet. So I'm not thinking that yet, personally. and I honestly don't want it. I don't want a season 2.
I don't either.
I
But
just want them to go. I really do think. I think it's still going to happen because he still needs to meet with Qui-Gon. He doesn't seem fully there yet to me. He doesn't seem fully.
I think Qui-Gon
he
on
could be, I guess.
Tatooine with overlooking Luke is the ending.
That could be. You could be right.
Personally, what I think is going to happen with Qui-Gon is going to be the emotional catalyst for him to really come back into the Kenobi persona to
That's
let
what
go.
I'm thinking.
Because Obi-Wan's big thing, like Loreseeker, have you read the Revenge of the Sith novelization?
In high school years ago.
So I reread it like 2 years ago, and one of the big things that it emphasizes, and I know it's Legends, but it wasn't at the time, is Obi-Wan is very gifted at letting go of attachments and not letting them cloud his judgment while still being compassionate and truly becoming one with the Force. The whole concept of I'm one with the Force and the Force is with me. And I think Qui-Gon is going to be the emotional catalyst at his most desperate time of need, and he'll show up because that's when Force ghosts always show up. It's always when the characters really need that lift, almost like the Force wills it that way. I mean, you look at Yoda and Obi-Wan in the original trilogy. You look at Yoda in The Last Jedi. There it is, Michael. I did it tonight. I brought it
Take
up.
a drink.
I wonder if you're I'm just throwing a random thing out there. Like if Qui-Gon's talking to Obi-Wan like right now and he's hearing him, I wonder if anybody else can hear Qui-Gon if they're in the same room. I don't know. Because could Vader hear Qui-Gon talk? He's like, what's going on here? I don't know. But anyway.
Qui-Gon.
What if Vader saw Qui-Gon's Force ghost?
That's what I was thinking in my head. Like, what if they're fighting and Qui-Gon comes out and it stuns Vader? Like, what's going on here?
That would be awesome.
How's this possible?
It probably won't happen, but that would be awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, hey, look, we'll see what happens there. I've been thinking the way Curry is with that. I still think that's something like that's going to happen. But dude, I got to be honest. I also like the idea of him. I think why not both? He needs him to become that Obi-Wan that we know again, or at least set him on that path. And then at the end of the show, he is there watching over Luke with Obi-Wan. Why not both? Like it could happen. You know,
the coolest part of the show for me was him walking around the corner in his regular robes and then being called General. I don't know why. I guess it was like
dude, it hit me too, man. I'm not gonna lie. It really did hit me.
I guess it's like the military in me, someone like, recognizing like, hey man, you know, his time of service. And it was pretty cool. Like, I just love that part.
Like you need to leave now, but I still respect you. I have respect for you no matter what. That's pretty cool, dude. I love that. But yeah, man. Okay. So big general thoughts of the rest of the episode. Once it got to the rescue, I loved it. Like, honestly, I did feel the pacing was pretty good. Once it got going, it felt rushed before the rescue, but once he got to the fortress, I felt like it was moving along, and I was just like, I was in it, and I was really enjoying it. And so I really like all that stuff. Man, I love the I just want to talk about this really quick and see what you guys think. I do think there is some more character work being done here with Obi-Wan than is given credit. And I think it has to do with the nature of how at the beginning of the episode, Obi-Wan is having a hard time even moving a small object with the Force, on the ship. And so there is this line in, I believe it's Light of the Jedi. It could be another High Republic novel, but the line basically is that, and this might not be exact, but it basically says the Jedi are at their most powerful when they are helping people. And I couldn't get my second watch through, I really started to notice this, because the first one was just like, I just felt like it was just a really quick episode. Plus I was asleep. But I really felt like every time that Obi-Wan has had to use the Force in this episode, I felt like with every passing moment, he could sense Leia's danger more and more. And especially once he got into that tomb, right? But and he heard her, And from that point on, I really felt like there were, whether it was the time where he was struggling, like when he had to distract the stormtroopers with that sound, kind of like in A New Hope, right? When he distracted, that was just like, wow, that's so A New Hope. When he did that, it was hard for him. In A New Hope, he's just like, but in this, he really was struggling with it. And then, but as it goes on, you have him in the hallway, or you have him like breaking before the hallway, you have him he turns out the lights, and then you see his blue lightsaber come on, and you get, all that stuff. Awesome. I love that moment. That was so great. Love that moment. And then once he had Leia, and his mission is now, I have her, I have to protect her. He was much more like, I felt like in his action, he was becoming more one with the Force. The Force was with him because he was helping Leia that whole time. And so I felt like, I don't know, I did feel character development in his action in this episode. And when he was in that hallway and he beats the stormtroopers, and then he does that classic Obi-Wan prequel pose, I got really happy. It really felt like he's coming back. He's not, I don't feel like he's fully here yet, but he's coming back. Yeah, then go ahead. What?
Yeah, that's like this is like his training episode, like his Rocky. Everyone's like, where's his Rocky Balboa moment? That was it. Literally,
yeah, dude.
Instead of training in a garage, he actually went out into the field, and he's doing it.
Which is better than we don't need a montage. That's not even like, montages don't really even exist in Star Wars. So
well, it's just the Yoda and Luke and Leia and Rey, and those, we've seen those. Like, do we really need Kenobi now to do that in the Force of Jabim, or something like?
No, yeah, I liked this. He's on a mission. He's helping someone, and him helping someone is helping him get more connected to the Force. And dude, when he stops the water from coming into that hall just long enough for the stormtroopers and all them to come into the hall, and then he floods it, he breaks all the rest of the glass, and he floods that hall, and then he gets out. I thought that was really great. I really loved that scene. And so it was, all of his action in that way really made sense to me, and it really was powerful to me. Like, as he was coming back like that, I got chills. There's several points.
They're tying this in. So anyone who says it's breaking canon, you have to argue, well, it's helping canon at the same time. Why is Kenobi so adamant? You must come with me to Alderaan if you are to save the rebellion to Luke. He was like so adamant and going, well, at the beginning of this episode or the show, no, I'm not going. Well, in episode 4, as soon as he gets out of the back tank, he's ready to save Leia.
Where's Leia? Yeah.
He's grown into this character that we know in A New Hope. So there was not a doubt in his mind when he gets that message from R2 in A New Hope that he wasn't going to go save her with or without Luke. He was going to go and try to do what he could to save Leia. Because of this show, they're adding on to that. He's really growing back into what we know, and him and Vader are learning how to become what their older age. Vader learns this trick that Reva shows him with the tracking, and then Kenobi's learning how to be stealthy, which pays off when he's on the Death Star. So it's like the parallels to A New Hope in this episode are like, it's really good, man. I love it.
I love what you said. Sorry, Craig, go ahead. I was just saying, I love what you said about it's also like you can nitpick things right now and say they're breaking canon in certain ways. And honestly, the ways that I hear some people saying they're breaking canon, they're not. I don't believe that they are. And then some of them, it's like wait and see. We haven't seen the end of it yet. So there's a lot of room to play on some of these things that people think are just objectively this, where the line of, when I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master. There's a lot of gray there. It's not one specific thing, So
if we'd never seen Star Wars, all three of us, or we just heard that line, we would all three interpret it different. Like, hey man, what would you think if someone said this to you?
Yeah.
I would think, and then we'd all have different answers.
Yeah.
So,
and we all assume we all assumed for years that it was, for years that he was clearly talking about at the end of Revenge of the Sith. But if you think about it, you can say, when I left you, I was but the learner, meaning the last time I saw you, I was but the learner. But you can also say, when I left your side, when I because he was at Obi-Wan's side in Revenge of the Sith, he in this show, he's clearly not the learner anymore, right? At least with their last meeting, right? And so like for me, it's like it works very well to say, when I left you, as in when I left the Order, when I left that side, I was the learner. Now I am the master. It doesn't
Order 66 day.
Yeah, it doesn't
that exact
exactly.
day. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be when I physically left your presence the last time. There's a lot of gray there. And I think there's a lot of people that are like, no, there's no gray there. And there so is. I don't really get it.
I don't understand why people can't use their imaginations. There's no sound in space. Do you want to watch Star Wars and not have explosion sounds? Like, just try to have fun, enjoy it. Just enjoy it. And then I think if you went into that mindset of, I'm going to try my best to enjoy this, I honestly believe you're probably going to enjoy it. I mean, I'm not looking at my TV with a frown on my face like, this is terrible. Like, I'm having fun. And
you better please me.
Yeah. Was that episode perfect? Absolutely not.
No.
But it was good enough for me to wake up at 2 a.m. with my alarm clock and then go back to bed 40 minutes later, content. So
yeah,
exactly how it was.
Yeah, Curry, I know you have thoughts.
Yeah, on that last point, with that interpretation of that line, like, come on, like, yeah, you can obviously, like, when New Hope came out, they're like, oh, it's just when Darth Vader turned bad. Then it's Revenge of the Sith. Oh, it's when like he got beaten by Kenobi, so that's why he said he was a learner. Now, if we want to continue, it's literal. My theory is that Vader and Kenobi are going to duel again, and Kenobi's going to beat the pants off of Vader, and then he's going to realize he still has a lot to learn, and he's not near where Kenobi is because Kenobi's in the light.
Yeah, I love that, dude.
So, but even if it's not, if they fight to a draw, whatever, it doesn't matter, because you can still interpret it as, oh, he's just talking about Revenge of the Sith, the most traumatic part of why Vader is angry. But rewinding a little bit, Michael, you brought some excuse me. You brought some stuff up that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
I loved when he's holding the water back. That's actually, in a way, I don't know if it was intentional or not. It's a callback to Fallen Order. So you go to Fortress Inquisitorius on Nur in Fallen Order. It's the last mission. It's also a rescue mission. So this made me roll my eyes a little bit. But anyway, there's a part where Cal breaks the glass and someone else has to hold the water back. So it was kind of reversed here. It's kind of cool. I just, in moments like that, these cool like ideas on paper, I just wish they had been executed better in terms of visuals and the actual filmmaking part of it. I thought it was really awkwardly staged and again, it's one of those things. I'm watching it, I'm enjoying it. Second time I'm watching it, I'm like, yeah, it's kind of ridiculous that Obi-Wan throws the water, it breaks the back windows, and he's able to outrun it. Like, if you really want to get nitty gritty about it. So there's that. Really quick.
While we're on the water part, I loved him breaking the glass windows and making the water go in those other windows. Personally, I love that. I agree, though. He should have at least been wet when he came out of that hallway. Like, how is he not at least a little? Those little details are important, right? Like, those, and it's not hard to do.
The door. The door's just shut, and he's on the other side of it. It's
those little details are so important, and if they take care of those little details, we wouldn't be taken out of the world, you know.
And like him throwing the water is actually pretty brilliant because he's holding all that like inertia and force back, and he just redirects it. And the water literally flows like this. It's great. I like the concept, and it's not awful, right? It's just a little lacking, and that's how I felt about pretty much the combat in general in this episode. And as someone who's like a huge fan of like action scenes in general, that's like something I'm really into. I found them like there's a lot of wide shots. There's a lot of like wandering around hallways, deflecting blaster bolts kind of slowly. I just feel like they could have been tightened up in editing. That's another nitpick.
Yeah.
And there's some awkward parts where he's standing between two stormtroopers one fires and he blocks it, and then the other one waits to fire.
Yeah, I saw that. Yep.
That's just poor staging of it. That being said, the first time, actually, I did notice that the first time. I can forgive those kinds of things, but that's where I mean, if you're going to have a really quick episode just to get like through it and get rescue Leia, just shorten the heck out of that mission and make it the beginning of another episode, or the opposite, make it worth the venture there and give us more than what you did. There's that. But like they dropped this huge bombshell that there's this tomb there, and Obi-Wan says, I think I know what they've been doing here. And they're like, oh, okay, we're about to find something out. And then they don't talk about it anymore. What are they doing there? Obi-Wan didn't say, that they don't, it's really vague, and maybe they want people to theorize for a week before they go into it, but they've already left there. So I'm like, will they even talk about that again? I don't know.
I just assumed he meant they're keeping this is where they keep the Jedi that they kill. Like that's kind of what I assumed, but I don't know. Maybe.
But why are they all like frozen with their eyes open? Like
they're trying to be like have this like the galaxy, all of it. They're trying to like intertwine everything. If you don't see it happen in episode 5 or 6 or wherever Kenobi goes in the future, either Cal Kestis is going to explore that.
Yeah.
There's going to be other characters that explore it, and I've been watching and talking to a lot of other Star Wars dudes, and it could even be Bad Batch eventually. There's the vats and everything that the Bad Batch found, the cloning. Are they trying to like take? I use a Jurassic Park reference. They take the DNA from the mosquito. Maybe they're trying to take the DNA from these fallen Jedi.
And that's my assumption. That's kind of where my brain went as someone who has like knowledge of all those other things. For someone who doesn't, I feel like that's a pretty big bomb to drop to kind of just move past really quickly. So that's another like instance where I just feel like they kind of rushed through it to get to the next part.
It's hard, man. It's like I was talking to someone about this. The Mandalorian, the format of that show, one of the best episodes was 29 minutes long. Like one of the first episodes, I think it was episode 2. It was like 29 minutes long. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't feel like that. It's one adventure and it's great. And then the next one is a different adventure and it's great. It's like the format of that works really well. But with a format like Obi-Wan, it's a more of a, it's every episode flows into the next one and it's more plot driven. You know what I mean? And so it's hard when you have shows like Stranger Things and The Boys and I don't know, all these some of these other shows that are coming out that are giving you longer episodes. They're giving you better visual effects, even though generally they haven't bothered me with this show, but every now and then it is like, I don't have a problem with TV shows having that looking more like TV shows. This is not a movie. It does not have movie budget. All in all, it's about the same as a movie, but you're talking about 4 hours of content instead of 2. So so the same amount of money is being divided in, differently. So each episode has less money to work with. It's not the same as a film budget. And so I'm understanding of that. As a consumer, I get it. I'm not super picky with TV shows, but it is hard when you're giving us these like rushed episodes. There's been a couple of them in this show. The first one was like 50 minutes or 52 minutes or something.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite one because it didn't feel rushed at all. It set up everything beautifully and it felt so good. To me, if you're doing a 6-minute or a 6-episode show, it feels like it needs to have 45 minutes at least. That needs to be your base, and so that you can flesh out everything, right? Because right now it does feel rushed at times, and so I think I'm seeing that. I'm seeing a lower quality in visuals now and then when it shouldn't be.
And I don't feel like we have the lower quality visuals in Mando. I feel like Mando is pretty consistent with its like visuals, honestly. And I think with Star Wars, there's an expectation, like, because Star Wars is the standard for visuals in many different decades. I mean, you look at the original trilogy, it's obvious. You look at the prequels and how they haven't aged as well, but they've pioneered, what filmmaking is now. And then any of the Disney era movies, if we're talking just visuals, and this is something Gabe said last night, you don't think about the bad CGI in the sequel trilogy or Rogue One or Solo because they look amazing.
Yeah.
Star Wars sets the standard. So when you have something a little subpar visually, it's like, what's going on?
We're going to find out. Andor is confirmed to be on set. Everything's on. There's no
on location.
What is it called?
The volume.
The volume.
That room, okay, yeah, where they filmed The Mandalorian and all that stuff. That's not in Andor. Andor is like on set, like it's post COVID. I'm pretty sure. Vaccine and all that stuff, where they can go out and film and be healthy and all that stuff. So when we get Andor to compare it to, then whatever we get after Andor, our eyes are going to see it quick if it's actually that.
Yeah.
We constricted the sets and being in a building and not out on location.
Yeah. I agree. I think Andor, I mean, just from the trailer, gosh, it looks so good. By the way, I believe this is Jack. Yeah, Jack says, don't hate on The Boys. Dude, I'm not. I'm using that as an example. It looks incredible. Like the first 2 seasons of The Boys are great, and the visuals are very good. And Stranger Things as well. Stranger Things, like there's obviously some parts, but man, Stranger Things looks very good in general with what they're trying to do. And and Scott says, I'm not blown out of the water with Obi-Wan. Yeah, I'm loving it, Scott, but I'm also a little bit this episode was a little bit of a setback. But I also say, if this episode is the worst one of the show, we're doing pretty good. Like, this is not a bad episode by any stretch of the imagination. I see people saying online that this episode is absolute trash, and they need to, I can point them in the way of some absolute trash. they don't watch enough movies, but this episode had its issues. But it was good. It was, especially once it got to that, for me, once it got to the actual, once he got to the fortress, it was pretty cool. I really enjoyed most of that. I'm
sorry, Michael.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. I was going to change the subject.
And I think, how you approach, like, whatever your expectations are, how you criticize. For example, I think pretty much everyone agrees that the scene where Obi-Wan like cuts the lights out, ignites his lightsaber, looks awesome, was awesome, like executed pretty well. And, on one hand, I also had a nitpick about it. And if I really focused on that nitpick, it could maybe ruin the scene for me. In the sense when he hits the stormtroopers with the lightsaber, they spark, but it doesn't look like there's any slash marks. There's no dismemberment. Disney has this weird thing with dismemberment in Star Wars now. It's wild. Like in Fallen Order, they did a strict, like, no dismembering stormtroopers. Not that I have to have that, but when you're using a lightsaber, it's like some visual consistency, right? But I don't care.
Well, they've already shown in this show that they don't mind dismembering people.
They just don't. It's like
stormtroopers. They don't want to do it to stormtroopers. So it was weird. I'm like, you'll show cutting off a hand, but when Obi-Wan slices a guy across the chest,
they got to pick, and they got to just stick with what they pick. If that's how lightsaber works on stormtroopers, cool. Let's just roll with it for the next 20 shows that we get. But they keep changing it up.
That's pretty much what they've done, though. Am I wrong? Like with lightsabers specifically, they don't, like in the
Jango
movies.
Fett.
In the what?
Jango Fett.
Oh, with the head. But that was very much a, like, I don't know. I guess I could get wrong, that, but
go ahead. Sorry.
He's not a stormtrooper either, by the way. But well, his armor's better than a stormtrooper.
Like the clones in the Order 66 scene at the beginning, I kind of thought the same thing. The lightsaber hits, it's like there's a bunch of sparks, but they don't feel like they're doing the damage they should. That's a super deep nitpick. I can turn that off and really enjoy the scene and say, oh, Obi-Wan rescued Leia in a way that Anakin would have rescued Leia during the Clone Wars. Obi-Wan would have tried to think of some strategy, and Anakin would cut the lights out, use your lightsaber as the light, and take these guys out and get the mission done. He fought like Anakin did. And that's just like how I saw that. And I love that. And I love the lighting and how it's framed and how it's staged and how it's like reacted, and just seeing Obi-Wan do something that cool. So that's what I choose to focus on. It's really not a big deal how the lightsaber hit him. It still looked decent. It just didn't look how I expected it to look when I compare it to the rest of the saga. But that's such a small thing to get hung up on. Just like we talked about earlier with breaking canon and the lines of dialogue from A New Hope. one that we talked about last night when I was on another podcast was, Leia says to Obi-Wan in that message, years ago, you served my father in the Clone Wars. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. There's some other stuff in there, I think. And they're like, well, if this happened, why didn't she say, help me like you did on Nur, help me like you did on so-and-so. We spent all this time together. I think you purposely put up comments when I'm talking just to throw me off.
Sometimes, only sometimes.
But just remember, I can do it too. But anyway, but I see that as one. They say it's bad if you have to like headcanon or mental gymnastic it to like make it work. But it's so easy to do that. She's in a high tense situation in that moment, right? When she's recording that message, Vader has literally like gone onto the ship and started killing her people. And it's not wrong that he served her father in the Clone Wars and she's calling him into action. Like it still works. It's fine. Can I see it being a little like, oh yeah, she probably could have said more, but it's not a big deal. And
but the thing is, she didn't say
conflict with anything.
She didn't say in that call years ago. She never said in that call, I've never met you, but years ago you served my father. There's nothing that says anything like that. You can, before we inferred that, but you don't know that for sure. There's room to play, but she didn't say the words, I've never met you, but I know you know my father. Years ago you served with him. That wasn't in the thing. So there's room to play. That I think some of these, canon keepers that we have out there are, they need to just cool it a little bit. I understand canon's important. I'm not saying it's not.
Yeah.
But Curry, I mean, I know you think that,
yeah,
right?
I'm like huge into that. And I'm
You're
like
the biggest canon person I know. So
yeah, I'm like, be consistent with it, but at the same time, there's wiggle room there. If anything, Return of the Jedi demanded it after the prequels came out, because Return of the Jedi, he says, your Obi-Wan once thought as you do. That is not what happens in Revenge of the Sith.
Right, so that they could fix it now.
Exactly, and I'm really hoping they do. I think that will be kind of a missed opportunity to not somehow address that.
Yeah,
but anyway,
so really quick, we gotta wrap up here, and between 10 and 20 minutes here. So, we would be remiss if we didn't at least we got to talk about the Reva and Leia side of things here. Really enjoyed Leia a lot in this episode. You didn't. I see your face there. You don't seem to like it.
I enjoyed Leia. I loved Leia.
Okay, I liked Reva in this episode. I actually did. Now, I'm still waiting to learn about her. I'm still waiting to learn more about her. I still think we will. But in this episode, I did really enjoy like that back and forth between them. I'm not kidding. I laughed hysterically. I laughed so hard when Leia said, is this a staring contest?
Yeah.
That was amazing.
It was a Poe moment. It was like, who's going to talk first? You talk first. I talk first.
It was an Anakin moment. Like that was her dad coming out in her. Like,
it totally was. But it reminded me so much of who talks first. You talk first. I talk first. For like Poe to Kylo. But it was totally Anakin. It was totally it was so like snarky. I loved it. It was so, who it was? It was Leia. That was so Leia. I loved it. And seeing how strong she is and how, I don't know, I just loved that. I don't have a lot to go in depth with it, but I enjoyed the back and forth between the two of them. Reva's performance is better every week for me. I liked her in this episode. Dude, I know we got to stick here for a second, but we got to talk about that Vader thing. Vader walking in. But before we go on to that, Curry, go ahead with your thoughts on this scene.
Yeah, I thought Leia was great. The fact that actress can just hold her own so well, like with her co-stars, says a lot about her. Because child stars, kid actors can be, it can go either way. Yeah, it can be hit or miss. Reva, though, I have seen some complaints and heard some complaints. It's like if they're trying to make Reva more intimidating. And by the way, I have mispronounced her name as Reva so many times. So if I do it, I'm sorry.
You're doing
it in my own content. Reva. Got to get that. They're trying to make Reva intimidating, and it worked really well in the first episode, which she's chopping people's hands off and like going crazy. And then later on, episode 2, kind of struggle with that a little bit. And if their goal was to work on that here, when she can't scare a 10-year-old, even though that 10-year-old is Leia, I do sympathize with the criticism of like, yeah, she's not intimidating at all. And I disagree with you here, Michael. I think her performance was a little bit weaker again this week. And I don't think it's particularly her fault. She just played very straight and very, very forceful. And I struggled with that a little bit on the first one. But when I rewatched it, I picked up on something I didn't the first time. And I don't know if either of you noticed this. Reva is she trying to come off intimidating? You know, she's trying to force it out of Leia's mind. She repeatedly threatens her over and over and over again and delays it. Does she really want to hurt her? Or is she trying to push Leia and get it out of her so she doesn't have to? It almost seems like she keeps delaying the fact that she's going to have to torture her.
I don't think she was ever trying to hurt Leia. There's an overlying thing going on with Reva that we don't know about. I think she's a turncoat. I don't know yet. But she's definitely stubborn, because if you're a 10-year-old, male or female, you put fifth brother in there, you're probably going to be like, oh my God, like, what is going on? He's scary. Like, I don't want to, I'll tell you whatever you need to know. Like, he's literally a Halloween costume walking. Like, and then Reva is just a human being, right? She's just a mad teacher is what she sounds like. I'm in detention. Like, I'm in detention already, so I don't even care. Like, that's exactly what Leia's thinking. But fifth brother walks in there, she's probably going to like be a little intimidated by that. So I thought he would have been a better interrogator. And then of course at the end, he's saying that she made a mistake or whatever. But when they announced Luke and Leia in this show, I was bummed out. I didn't want them in this, but Leia is my favorite character so far.
She's been so good, man.
And she's got more talent as a 10-year-old than I have as a grown man. It's crazy. Like, incredible actress. Yeah. She's gonna have a great career. But the line where she says this is a staring contest, yeah, that was a good.
I laughed so hard, like it wasn't just a that was funny. It was a legitimate like bust out laugh. Like it was great. Man, I do disagree a little bit with the intimidation. It wasn't like physical intimidation, but there were moments. Leia was frightened in this scene when she told Leia that Obi-Wan was dead. Leia was. She didn't know 100%, because when she finally saw Obi-Wan again, she was relieved that he was still alive. She believed that he could be dead, that very much. And you could see the fear, but even despite being afraid, this is what made it great for me. I think she was intimidated. I think she was afraid, but despite that, she was still strong enough to not give the information, And yeah. I love that moment where she was like, I just have to tell my dad first. I just have to tell my father first. That's okay, right? You said we're on the same side. I was like, Leia. So like she is, yes, I felt like she was intimidated. I felt like she was scared, but she was still strong enough. And that's why it was great for me. So I don't know.
So my criticism isn't that Leia wasn't scared. It's just that Reva doesn't come off as intimidating as she should. But I'm starting to suspect with kind of noticing that she's doing everything she can to not hurt Leia, and not in the sense of like, oh my gosh, I'm going to strangle this kid, but like, I really don't want to hurt her. I really don't want to hurt her. And she even apologized. She's like, I'm sorry, you give me no choice. So is this part of setting up, like, whatever they reveal, whatever they're going to reveal about Reva, will we retroactively look back and go, oh, that's why she acted a little off here?
Maybe, but she was also on that like torture table, and like she was about to get tortured,
but she didn't
until Tala distracted, right? Tala had to distract. If that didn't happen, she would have done that to Leia. So I don't know.
That's when she apologized. So if you go back and look, think about how long it takes to get there. That's just, now this is pure theory territory, of course. And of course, at the end, she kills Wade, whoever that guy was that we were supposed to care about. Like, oh, Wade, one scene. Oh, he's dead.
There's a little more to that than that too. Go ahead.
I'm deflecting with humor a little bit.
I'm with Curry. I do think that she was not trying to hurt Leia. And I'm going back with she's a senator's daughter as well. I think I feel like once they get Kenobi, like say they just got Kenobi this episode, and that's what happens, then they'd be like, all right, we got to give Leia back to the senator. If not, this is going to cause a big problem because the Imperial Senate is still like a thing,
Right.
and it has structure. Like she just can't be put up in the tomb, So
Yeah.
You can't just torture a senator's daughter. I don't think she had ever intention.
She kidnapped one.
Yes.
Without the permission of the Grand Inquisitor.
Or Vader.
I don't know.
Where is he? Where is the Grand Inquisitor? I've been waiting to bring that up.
He's in the tomb. No.
that would have been quite the reveal. Then I will get mad about breaking canon if he's just dead, but he's not. I still don't believe
the writer basically confirmed he's coming back, but I'm like, they're really saving this for the late game. Like, where is he?
There's still 2 episodes, man. There's still
literally.
He's like, not the main antagonist of this show.
But physically, literally, where is he that they all think he's dead?
You just want to know specifically what planet, where is he?
Like when they showed him after he got stabbed, they literally put him in the bottom of the shot like this. I'm like, okay, everybody thinks he's dead, like unless Vader's the only one that knows. So
is he blinking?
I don't know. I'm very like ready for that. And that's not so much a criticism. I'm ready to figure out where he's been, what the deal is. Hey, Jessica. I'm ready to find out what Reva's deal is. I'm at that point in the show. When you get to that halfway point, you're ready for answers. Mm-hmm. And this episode was
delayed those a bit.
Well, it delayed those, but it rushed through something else that I feel like really needed to be rushed through. Anyways.
Yeah, so and hey, that stuff we'll see. Because listen, there is something that I do have a lot. By the way, really quick, Ash says no Jess for 2 episodes in a row. I know Jess is out of town, but she is in the chat, so tell her hi there. So really quick, there is the oh no, I'm blanking on his name. Stanton.
Andrew Stanton.
Andrew, thank you, Andrew. So the lead writer / director of Finding Nemo, WALL-E. And he was one of the main writers on Toy Story and several other Pixar movies, several of their upper tier movies. And Pixar is honestly probably the best studio around these days, the most consistent studio around. And he just knows how to craft a good emotional story. He is writing episode 5. He's co-writing it with the same guy who's been writing. And I think there's been a different co-writer on almost every episode,
if
not every episode.
6 too.
I saw them on IMDb, but IMDb is kind of like it had a few other people on there too. So I don't know how is that correct?
Yeah. Well, I saw it on Wikipedia as well, but
okay. Well, it could be if he's
I think
if he's
all
writing,
the writers like kind of worked on the finale.
Right. If he is co-writing, even if it's just this one, I have high hopes for this next episode's writing because he knows how to craft an emotional story. And so I do expect some of the emotional stuff that we're wanting in this episode. And I still think we might look back on the show once it's done and we could think, okay, well, we were worried about nothing. But we could get to the end and be disappointed. We'll see. But guys, we got to get off of here in a second, but can we at least we got to spend 2 minutes talking about Angry Vader. When he walked in through that hallway, I felt Hayden Christensen. I felt Anakin I felt him in the suit. I felt his anger. Thank you, Curry. I felt his anger, every bit of it when he just reached out and force choked her. What did y'all think of that part?
It was perfect Vader. He was walking through that hallway. You don't even have to ask if he's mad. You just know he's like, where is this? Where is she? I need her. It's over. And then he comes in there and he's not just doing a force grab. He's turning into it like he's throwing a haymaker,
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it.
I love, for one, like in the original trilogy, like I love Vader. Like, no, this is not a criticism, but like of the time he moves around very clunkily, right? He still does because he's mostly robot. But here, I've never seen Vader move so fast, like in anger. Like he was booking it. And not only that, but like the quick, like immediate, like I don't tolerate failure. I'm going to kill you, but I'm not going to kill you quick. I'm going to kill you slowly. and like waiting to hear the explanation before he does it. But then, like recognizing what Reva did and him thinking to himself, I see Anakin's tactician mindset come out, and like how Vader is actually a lot smarter than everyone else in the room. And I think Vader knows more is at hand. This is just me theorizing again. And Vader's playing the long game, and it's just I love everything about Vader in the show.
Yeah, they're handling Vader very well, in my opinion. But I also think it's really interesting that the last time, in the last episode when Obi-Wan and Vader fought, or Obi-Wan kicked, or was his butt was kicked by Vader. You would think right there Anakin would just be totally not worried at all about Obi-Wan, and the fact that Obi-Wan lives in his headspace so much that we see him walking down that hallway so angry that they still haven't caught him, that they let him get away. It is I love that we're seeing him just so mad, and Obi-Wan just lives in his head rent free, and it is pretty great. But I cannot wait. They're going to show down again, and I can't wait.
Do you think we'll get a Vader version of Darth Maul, Kenobi, but in Vader voice? He didn't know, so can he do Kenobi?
Please, God, no. Jessica, really quick. Jessica says, I really love this episode. I'm so excited to see what happens next week. So sad that I couldn't make it tonight. Stupid airlines. Yeah, Jessica, we really missed you tonight. And she was really trying hard to get back. She could not get back in town. So hopefully you'll get to be on for the next couple. But Jack says Obi-Wan has permanent residence in Vader's head. I completely agree, man. Even though, Anakin / Vader is very cocky and arrogant about everything, he still is insecure at times too. And I think Obi-Wan is still in his head, and I love it. I loved how that was portrayed. And one little thought, and then we'll wrap this up. My one last criticism. Did anyone think it was so silly when they were when Obi-Wan was hiding Leia under his coat, when they were just walking through all of the stormtroopers? I thought that was so. I mean, it was funny. I laughed, but I was like, I don't want to be laughing right now.
It was how I because it was like, it's like, come on, is this the best idea they can come up with? Yeah. But when I go to the certain trainings and stuff, like there's a video, I know it now, and this is the only way I can describe it to anybody. Like, I was like, this would never work. I'm like, it would work, because so there's a video, and it's a group of 4 people. They're standing in a circle, and the teacher or instructor will say, hey, I want you to count how many times they pass the ball between each other. Like, you have to get this right. So you watch the video. I think the answer is like 17 or something. And then he's like, what'd you get? 17. Some people say 16, 18 or whatever. And then the second question he asked, did anybody see the person in the gorilla suit walk through the circle? No one. And if you've never seen this video and you actually try to do the task at hand, and normally no one in the room is like, what are you talking about? There's no way there was a gorilla suit man walking through. And he's like, I'm going to play the same video. And sure enough, a man in a gorilla suit walks through. So what I'm saying is, because they're in the sirens are going off in the fortress. They're all focused on the task. Vader's present, like they know Vader's here, or the Inquisitors are mad. And if you're just a stormtrooper, you're like, what's my task when this siren goes on? Okay, I need to go.
Vader lives in their headspace.
Yeah. And then like every soldier and every person in the military has a task that they need to do when the alarms go off. So they're heading there. They're not looking at people's feet going, hey, you have 4 feet. You have the proper feet. It's like no one does. You will walk past those people. You will have tunnel vision. You will walk past them every time. So as stupid as it was when I first watched it, I tried to say, okay, it would work. It really would work. I promise it would work.
Yeah,
so honestly, I can see that. That's good. That's fine.
The first time I saw it, I was like, wait, really? Nobody's going to notice that? And then I kind of had I didn't watch that video, of course, but I kind of had the same thought, like they're all busy doing stuff. And the fact that they don't get away with it. Like Reva still comes out, points them out, and immediately everyone's like, wait a minute. Like, that worked?
Traitor!
Yeah. But dude, they missed a golden opportunity. This is mostly in jest before Michael takes me seriously. They should have just put Leia in a stormtrooper outfit, and then an Imperial officer could have said, "Aren't you a little short to be a stormtrooper?" And that's where she got it. Boom, canon confirmed.
Dude, if they would have done that, I wouldn't have even like that would have been so ridiculous, but I would have been like, brilliant.
That would have been amazing.
Why do you not work for Lucasfilm? Like, that is the best thing I've ever heard.
Loreseeker, there's your next video. Just credit me at the end.
Dude, that's such a great idea. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad you said that.
Like, they just put like a little helmet on her or something. Like, oh, she's a recruit in training.
Man, I haven't laughed that hard in a while, man. That's a good one.
Oh, well, thank you.
I haven't laughed hard since Leia said, "Is
I'll
it
be here
staring
next
contest?" All right, guys. Well, we got to wrap it up because we got a hard time tonight at 8:55, and so we're gonna make that time. Really quick before we get going, Curry. I know obviously you're one of our co-hosts, but you also have other things going on. Quickly tell us where we can find all that stuff.
Yeah, so I've talked about before. My co-host with our buddy Lamont English, Nerd City Central on YouTube, where we kind of just have long-form discussions about Star Wars, Marvel, DC, and pretty much a lot of nerd stuff in a central location. And it's busy, so it's a city. Anyway, I don't know why we named it that, but it just sounded cool. And another thing that I'm getting back, thank you. Another thing I'm getting back on my personal YouTube channel called Curnator1. I used to do movie reviews years ago, and I'm getting back on that, doing this consistently. I've been covering Obi-Wan Kenobi so far, the Marvel shows. I've got a Stranger Things review I'm releasing on Monday or Tuesday. It depends on when I finish it. So please follow me, subscribe at those places, like the videos, help the algorithm. And I really just, I would appreciate any views where you can hear me talk about all the great opinions that I have that Michael usually disagrees with. Not all the time.
Yeah.
It really doesn't happen as much as he thinks.
50-50. Awesome, dude. Awesome. Loreseeker, how about you, man?
And you just Google or YouTube Star Wars Loreseeker. It'll pop right up. We're making Kenobi content every day. Now that I'm back and I have a consistent schedule, like literally every single day we're having a video come out until the series is over. Lore videos, Easter egg videos. I don't really do reviews or critiques on it. I just try to stick right to the lore and the content. And so far, it served me well. We just hit 17 like a week ago. We're almost to 17.1 thousand subs. So it's pretty crazy.
Awesome, man.
That's awesome.
It's very fortunate. So I'm just gonna keep building, and hopefully this time next year we'll be at a new number. Like my goal, of course, is that YouTube plaque, and we'll sit it somewhere over here. So I'm excited.
Yeah, man.
And his content is awesome.
Yeah, I was gonna say his content is very, very good. It is stuff that like it's perfect for me because I am not lore heavy. My focus is not lore when I'm watching Star Wars. My focus is generally more on story and character. And a lot of the times the lore and details and stuff like that kind of fly right by. But videos like yours help me out a lot. So I'm glad you're doing your thing, man. So guys, thanks so much for joining us. Everyone in the chat. We had Ash, we had Scott, we had other Scott, we had Jack, we had maybe someone else. I think that was it. Jess, so glad that you were able to stick around. She says, y'all have a great weekend. Glad I could catch a little. We're glad you could be here also. If you made it through the whole podcast, make sure you subscribe and also go join all of our social medias. They're going to be down in the description below. Thank y'all so much for joining us thank you so much for joining us tonight. And until next week, may the force be with you always.